It's alright, like, overrated as fuck, in my opinion.
Before I get hate comments, please hear me out.
Wait.
I did like the Backrooms movie, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to like it a lot more.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
It felt like I had blue balls leaving the theater because it was so close to being a horror classic.
I'm about to bust.
Then it stumbled in multiple key areas, specifically regarding the characters, story, and themes. I loved what was introduced and where it was going, but then the middle of the movie feels like an entire 20 to 30 minutes was missing and it speed run to the end. In this sense, I did have an issue with the pacing, but not because it was a slow burn, quite the opposite. I wanted more and felt like I had been robbed of a delicious meal that I had watched meticulously get crafted for the entire runtime up to that point, and then it was snatched from my jaws.
I hope you're hungry. For nothing.
Why the fuck would you show me something if I couldn't have it then?
Ultimately, I left feeling conflicted because this film is a mixed bag that delivers some great elements along with some big disappointments. Also, as a quick aside, it seems the Zoomer and Gen Alpha audiences this weekend were absolutely horrific for a lot of people, and it was no different in my theater.
Backrooms junkie!
And I'm not trying to be a spiteful unk in the twilight years of his 20s. I had kids in there taking flash photos of the screen mid-movie, throwing shit at one another, talking full volume, answering phone calls, and yelling shit during the quiet parts to clip farm for social media. By the end, people threw popcorn, and I got Minecraft movie flashbacks. It seems theater etiquette is truly dead for a lot of these brain-rotted kids, and we need to pass legislation to be able to slap a little shit if they're disturbing the theater experience. In Minecraft, Daddy YouTube, in Minecraft. Don't come after my monetization now, please. But before I get into the specifics of my issues, and there will be spoilers, let me give it up to Kane Parsons, who clearly has a great career ahead of him, and highlight the movie's strengths. His direction and creative vision were impressive, and I expect him to have a long, successful career. This movie, along with Obsession, are landmarks for independent filmmakers, as Hollywood blockbusters like Mando and Grogu struggle to break even despite hundreds of millions in financial backing. These indie horror hits are going to outperform a Star Wars movie. You would be mocked if you even suggested that possibility 10 years ago, and now it's a reality. This film has immense hype, and I'm excited to see how its inevitable success forces Hollywood to stop feeding the general public slot factory bullshit.
You big dildo. Eat your fucking slot.
Real quick, if you're enjoying the video, please like and subscribe. Now back to the video. Let me start with the positives. The production design is top notch. This didn't feel like a movie made for 10 million bucks. Granted, most of the movie takes place inside a furniture store, a therapist's office, and the backrooms themselves, so expensive location shoots weren't necessary, but it didn't feel like they just took the same 40 pieces of furniture and 10 rooms and just rearranged them due to a lack of vision or budget. I'm pretty sure Parsons and the team designed the rooms in Blender down to each painstaking detail, so kudos to them. I'm sure die-hard fans of the lore felt like it was a love letter to the series. The shot near the end with the endless abyss and multiple stories of the backrooms was very impressive and felt visceral and grounded. Same with the still life effects. They were practical, which kind of makes sense as to why they seem so convincing, because they were real creature effects in front of the camera. The cinematography impressed me as well. How do you film liminal spaces in an interesting way so that each shot of room after room doesn't seem stale? Well, the crew managed to accomplish just that. They made random chairs and walls and fluorescent lights visually appealing and unsettling, as they should be.
This is art, Mr. White.
The acting was good to great, considering the material they were given to work with. Chiwetel Ejiofor is truly one of the best actors working today, and he is enthralling for every second he's on screen. Sorry if I butchered his name. The Captain Clark's Ottoman Empire commercial was legitimately hilarious and made me and my friends laugh out loud. Renate Rines, Jesus, these names, did a solid job as well. She nailed the therapist vibe and was able to convey a lot through her eyes and body language. There were some genuinely tense and creepy sequences, especially when Kat and Bobby got attacked and Clark was running through a ton of creepy rooms in an enthralling extended sequence. But, as I'm gonna say a lot in this review, it left me wanting And that's a perfect transition to get into the issues with this film. The character arcs, the ideas, the story, the themes, they're all kind of rushed and not addressed in a satisfying manner. Not to say none of it's enjoyable, but rather it's all pretty messy. The underlying theme is about people getting trapped in cycles and taking the path of least resistance. How we all protect ourselves in patterns and repeating actions rather than tackling what we need to do in order to progress. And although it was a very on-the-nose metaphor for the Backrooms themselves, I do prefer a theme that is easily understandable rather than some pretentious pseudo-intellectual bullshit that makes the film seem smug and talking down to the audience.
Am I the only one who understands the complexities of this ambitious cinematic masterpiece?
Clark is trapped in the pattern of his unfulfilled life. He sees the Backrooms as a way to escape his meaningless existence and kindle a newfound sense of adventure. But we go from seeing him running after Kat and Bobby are ambushed, and the next thing we see is him and he's completely insane.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
While it makes sense that Clark tried to escape into the Backrooms, a physical manifestation of the patterns he delved into rather than fixing the issues in his life, this felt rushed and clunky. We don't see Clark's descent into madness. We needed at least another 20 minutes in this section of the film to give this transformation its just due. Seeing him lose his mind, befriend the still lifes, and eventually eat them would have been the most interesting part of the entire movie. Granted, we got hints that Clark was already losing his shit when he essentially sacrificed Bobby and Kat without hesitation in order to gain more info on the Backrooms, but this isn't sufficient enough character development in itself to justify the change. We need to see it. Films are best when they show, don't tell, and at their worst when they do the inverse. Also, Clark's explanation of the Backrooms, although not factually absolute and only his flawed understanding, kind of takes their aura away.
Well, that was anticlimactic.
While of course we needed some explanation, as it would have been deeply unsatisfying to not answer anything, ambiguity leaves room for all of us to fill in the blanks. Clark sees the Backrooms as some sort of cosmic dumping ground where all rooms, streets, homes, and locations that have ever existed are replicated, albeit in a fractured form. Each time the Backrooms remembers a place, it gets a little bit more distorted.
Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy.
Now, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know shit when it comes to Backrooms lore except some random stuff I looked up for this review. I wanted to go in blind, but I know that we only skimmed the surface when it comes to the various levels, monsters, and cosmic horror elements that this IP has to offer. They should have shown us even a glimpse of these more Lovecraftian elements to show that what Clark and we the audience think we know is only the tip of the iceberg, but without this, it makes it seem as though we kind of have it all figured out besides the specifics of how and why the Backrooms exist and infinitely generate. The last sequence of the film shows copies of the interview room Mary is in, telephone poles with missing signs for Kat and Bobby, and a still life of Mary herself. And while these hammer home the idea that the Backrooms are constant, endless, and all-encompassing, these are all elements that still fit under Clark's explanation. We should have seen some totally wild entities that are fully unexplainable. Shit that begs the question, what the fuck are these things? Where do they come from? And do they exist in the real world?
What the hell is even that?
I'm not asking for mindless jump scares, just something that's unexplainable hovering in the corner of the room. And it also feels like we aren't even in the Backrooms themselves for a lot of the movie. I didn't have a stopwatch timing it all, obviously, so I'm not certain, but we needed more scenes of Clark and Mary exploring down there. Tension building scenes where something is watching them right out of view. These were the best scenes of the movie, and a slow burn is only effective if it delivers something worth it. We simply needed... We could have spent a lot more time with Mary and Clark as they discover the rules of this new world and how it works, mapping it out and retracing their steps, but it feels like the focus of this movie was a lot more on the themes and the vibes instead. And speaking of Mary, her journey felt kind of muddled as well. Her character was pivotal in playing off Clark in order to highlight his mental degradation throughout the film, but I'm kind of confused as to what I was supposed to get from her character. Although we technically find out a lot about her, it still feels like we don't know her very well. We see flashbacks of her as a kid. Her mom was mentally ill and an agoraphobe, and it's implied that she was trapped inside for most of her young life. We see that house getting demoed to make way for apartments, and there are handprints in the concrete that she made as a kid. We see she held onto this imprint and actually used it to defend herself against Pirate Clark at the end. Okay, And so what? Just because we see a lot of disparate things about her doesn't paint a clear picture on what we're supposed to glean from all this. I guess it shows that she escaped the patterns that Clark instead chose to embrace, and at the end she's now trapped in a government facility just as she was trapped inside during her childhood.
What the hell does that even mean?
But again, a lot of this is only implied or briefly touched on, as so much of this film is in regards to its ideas. Ironically, the cosmic horror elements and the explanation of the backrooms, things that should be more ambiguous, get more explanation and clarity than the critical character moments, and that is this project's ultimate failing. Not to say this movie is a failure or it's super bad or anything. I would still give it a 6, maybe a 7 out of 10 or so. It's still worth watching in the theater, assuming you're not trapped in there with a bunch of obnoxious audience members.
Backrooms Junkie!
Can you shut the fuck up?
But the reason I'm ultimately disappointed is, with a few changes, the Backrooms truly would have lived up to the hype for me. If the story, characters, and pacing issues were addressed, this could have been an all-timer. But as it sits, it's a competent and engaging horror flick with some critical miscues. I'm hoping Kane Parsons can tighten his directing chops for the next chapter, as I can feel we are right on the edge of glory with this one. Honestly, get a new writer, cause he's the one who held this project back. Thank you so much for sticking with the video this long. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. My goal is to hit 5K subs by July, and any help is greatly appreciated. And I want to hear what you thought of the movie in the comments. Did it live up to the hype for you, or did you leave a little bit disappointed? What do you think they could do for a sequel? And what changes do you hope to see Kane Parsons make in the next entry? Again, my goal is to hit 5K subs, so any help is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.